Good morning/afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to share with you today a comprehensive exploration of family violence and its far-reaching legal and social implications. Together, we'll delve into the definitions and history of this critical issue, examine the various types of abuse, explore important theories, and discuss effective strategies for recognizing and intervening. This presentation aims to deepen our understanding and equip us to respond more effectively to family violence. Let's begin. Family violence involves patterns of abusive behaviors that take place within families or intimate relationships. It's important to understand that this type of violence isn't limited to physical harm. It can also include emotional, sexual, and financial abuse. These various forms reflect complex dynamics of power and control that deeply affect those involved. The significance of family violence extends beyond the immediate family, impacting society and the legal system as a whole because of its widespread consequences. By studying family violence thoroughly, we can improve how we recognize it, prevent it, and intervene effectively. This ultimately helps protect the most vulnerable members of families and promotes safer, healthier communities. When we look back at the early social and legal history of family violence, it's clear that for a long time, this issue was seen as a private matter, something that didn't warrant state intervention. Society largely accepted this view, which influenced how laws were made and enforced. Early legal norms often mirrored these societal attitudes, meaning domestic abuse was frequently minimized or even tolerated within the legal system. However, by the 19th century, we start to see some important changes. Legal protections began to take shape, with actions like the criminalization of wife beating marking a shift towards recognizing domestic violence as a punishable offense. Then, moving into the mid-20th century, there was a broader societal shift where domestic violence started to be acknowledged as a public concern rather than just a private family issue. This change paved the way for the development of support systems, including the emergence of shelters in the 1970s and subsequent decades, providing vital resources and safe spaces for those affected. These milestones highlight the evolving understanding and response to family violence over time. Landmark legal cases have been instrumental in shaping how we respond to family violence. These cases have often set important precedents, expanding the legal definitions of abuse and introducing protective measures like restraining orders. Over time, we've seen a significant shift in societal attitudes, from a culture of silence to one of active advocacy. This change has influenced important policies, such as mandatory arrest laws and the development of support services for victims. Altogether, these developments highlight a growing recognition that family violence is a serious social issue, demanding coordinated efforts between the legal system and the community. When we talk about violence in families, it's important to recognize there are four major types. First, physical violence involves acts that cause bodily harm. This is often the most visible form, but not the only one. Next, emotional violence includes psychological abuse that can seriously damage a person's self-worth and mental health. Third, sexual violence refers to any non-consensual sexual acts within the family, which is a deeply harmful and often hidden issue. Lastly, financial violence is about controlling or exploiting financial resources, which can trap victims and limit their independence. Understanding these categories helps us see the full scope of challenges some families face. Physical violence in families refers to the intentional use of force that causes injury or harm to another person. This can take many forms, such as hitting, slapping, punching, choking, or even using weapons. The consequences of this kind of violence can be severe, including visible injuries like bruises or cuts, as well as long-term physical health problems that may affect the victim's well-being for years to come. While physical violence is often the most easily recognized form of family abuse, it's important to remember that it frequently occurs alongside other types of abuse, making the situation even more complex. Recognizing these signs is crucial in addressing and preventing further harm. Emotional violence in families involves behaviors that cause psychological harm rather than physical injury. This can include things like verbal abuse, constant criticism, manipulation, humiliation, and even isolation. These actions deeply affect a person's sense of self-worth and mental well-being. Over time, victims often struggle with issues such as anxiety, depression, and trauma, which can have long-lasting effects. Although emotional violence may not always be visible on the surface, its impact is profound and enduring, shaping a victim's mental health in significant ways. It's important to recognize these subtle forms of abuse because their consequences are just as serious as physical harm. Sexual violence within families refers to any non-consensual sexual acts or coercion that occur among family members. This type of abuse can be committed by partners, relatives, or other individuals within the family circle. One of the biggest challenges in addressing this issue is the widespread underreporting, largely because of the sensitive nature and the stigma attached to it. To effectively support survivors, it's essential to use careful and trauma-informed approaches, ensuring they receive the understanding and care they need during such difficult times. Financial violence in families is a form of abuse where economic control is used to dominate and manipulate family members. This can take many forms, such as restricting access to money, controlling a partner's income, exploiting shared resources, or preventing someone from achieving financial independence. The impact on victims is significant, as it limits their autonomy and makes it much harder for them to leave abusive relationships or situations. That's why recognizing and raising awareness about financial violence is essential. It's a crucial part of addressing family violence in a comprehensive and effective way. Domestic violence theories are essential because they offer us frameworks to better understand how abuse operates within relationships. One key theory is the power and control theory, which explains abuse as a deliberate strategy used by the abuser to maintain dominance over their partner. Another important concept is the cycle of violence, which highlights the repetitive pattern many abusive relationships follow, starting with tension building, leading to an incident of abuse, followed by reconciliation, and then a period of calm before the cycle repeats. Lastly, the feminist theory looks at domestic violence through the lens of gender inequality, emphasizing how societal power imbalances contribute to violence. These theories together help us grasp the motivations behind abuse, the recurring behaviors involved, and the broader social contexts in which family violence occurs. Coercive control is a pattern of behavior designed to dominate and isolate someone over time. It's important to understand these steps because they reveal how this form of abuse gradually intensifies and becomes more complex. Initially, the abuser might seem charming and attentive, which helps build trust. But slowly, they start to take control over the victim's daily activities, making decisions for them and isolating them from friends and family. This isolation makes it harder for the victim to seek help or support. As the abuse progresses, more intense tactics come into play. The abuser may monitor communications and movements, using threats or intimidation to create fear. They work to undermine the victim's confidence and sense of self, sometimes manipulating children or other family members to increase control. Compliance is enforced through emotional or even physical abuse, making it incredibly difficult for the victim to break free. Understanding these steps is crucial to recognizing and addressing coercive control in all its forms.